So I'm really grateful to be here this afternoon at St. Mary Bashas in Chandler in Arizona. And so today we're going to look at a talk entitled The Mirror. And in order to do that, I have something here. What do we call this? Who can tell me? What's this? Right there. A spatula, right. Okay, so tell me, how do I use this spatula? What's it designed for? Yeah, you flip things, normally pancakes or what else? What else might I flip with it? How about French toast? Okay, so I want to come up with maybe 5, 10 creative ways that we could use this spatula, other than flipping pancakes or egg. Okay, give me one. Okay, wonderful, back scratcher. What's another one? Was that yours? What? I could flip eggs. Good, back there. A shovel, perfect. What's another one? I could kill a fly swatter. Okay, that was yours. Right there, what's your? I could slap a person like this person right here, right? What else could I do? I could catapult. I love it. Okay, what else? I could use it for a spoon. I could flip a Krabby Patty. Is that what you said? Are you from Maryland? Okay, because Maryland is a place where people love to eat crab cakes. Yes?
You could throw it like a javelin.
Okay, perfect. I could throw it like a javelin. Okay, give me one more. Who has one more? Yes? I could carve it and use it as a knife. Fabulous. So these are all ways I could use this pancake turner. Or I could use it like a baseball bat or a golf club. What if I used it as a jack to jack up a car? What would happen? What would happen? That's right, it would just snap, it would break, because that's not what it's designed for. So if I try to use this pancake turner in a way that it's not designed for, it's going to break. So what does that have to do with our talk this afternoon? Well, you know what? I think a lot of times when we get out of bed in the morning, we don't ask ourselves, what's the purpose of my body? So you went through and told me what the purpose of the pancake turner is, to flip pancakes. And we came up with all kinds of other purposes that really aren't the way that's designed for. Well, you know, God has given us a body, and our bodies also have a purpose. And so it's so helpful to know what that purpose is. So is the purpose of our body to have fun? Yeah. It's not a bad purpose of our body. How about to work? Well, especially when you're an adult, that's what you have to do, right? Your body helps you work. How about, is the purpose of your body to bully someone? No, that's kind of like using a pancake turner to jack up a car, right? It's not a good purpose for the body. You know what? God gave us a body. The most important reason is to reveal Him. That's why God gave us a body. That's the purpose of the body. Like the purpose of the pancake turner is to flip pancakes. The purpose of the body is to reveal God. So I have some mountains here. If I cover them up, can you still see the mountains? Yeah. Raise your hand if you can still see the mountains. Okay, wonderful. Right here, how can you see the mountains? Exactly. So I know it's really hard because the PowerPoint's not very clear. But yes, in the reflection. You see, we can't see God directly. He's kind of like those mountains that are covered up. But we can see Him in each other through our bodies. We could say in a way that your body is meant to reflect God. That's why God gave you a body, is so that you could reflect Him. So here's a verse from the Gospel of John. It says, whoever has seen me has seen, who could finish that blank for me? Anyone? Okay, right over here. Exactly. Whoever has seen me has seen the Father. Who said that? Jesus said that. Jesus is talking to those around Him. He says, whoever has seen me has seen the Father. In other words, the Father's invisible. We can't see the Father directly. But if you see me, Jesus is saying, if you see the way I act, then you can see the Father. Whoever has seen me has seen the Father. And that means the body is, and it's time for hangman. Okay, so we're going to see who wins, me or you. So we're going to see if you can figure out how to complete this sentence. The body is blank. Okay. So if you're watching this on DVD, you might want to stop the DVD at this point and play hangman and see who wins, you or your teacher or your youth group leader. Okay, so we've got 11 letters we're looking for. All right, so yes, the young woman here. Give me a letter. Oh, gosh darn it. Okay. Yes, there's an A. As a matter of fact, there's more than one A. That was a really good guess. All right. Back in the green t-shirt. You. That look down. Yep. The one with kind of the reddish hair. Yep. A T. Say it again. E as in elephant. Yes, you're right. There is an E. Okay. How about right here on the end? S. I was really hoping you would not guess that, because that happens to be the very first letter. Ooh, okay, let's do this side. Yes. Do you guys play this a lot? Yeah. You do, huh? Okay. Does anyone know what the word is yet? You think you know what it is? You are right. Did you hear what she said? Say it really loud. Sacramental. So who won, me or you? You guys did. I didn't even get to draw a head up here. So the body, our faith tells us, is sacramental. The body is sacramental. What does that mean when we say the body is sacramental? Okay, so it's time for a catechism quiz. Okay, let's see. Can you fill in the blanks on this catechism quiz of what is a sacrament? Oh, you can't really see it well. Okay, so it says a sacrament is a visible, it has an S with a blank. What do you think it might be? Sign. Yes, a sacrament is a visible sign of an invisible, and then the word starts with an R. It's a little harder. Do you have an idea? Okay. Of an invisible reality. A sacrament is a visible sign of an invisible reality. That means a sacrament has something you can see, right? Something that's tangible. But a sacrament also has something that you can't see, something that's invisible. So here's the way I like to remember this definition of a sacrament. A sacrament is a visible, right? That's a V, right? Visible, and now I'm making my body into a sign of an invisible, cover my eyes, and then make an R, reality. Okay, so stand up. We're all going to turn our bodies into the definition of a sacrament. Here we go. So a sacrament is a visible. Okay, some of you are kind of like, make that a V. Great. Okay, a visible, and then this is the hard part. Stand on one leg, put your hand, okay, and make a sign. Great. A visible sign. Okay, now cover your eyes of an invisible, and now make an R. Reality. Okay, great. A little bit faster. Here we go. A sacrament is a visible sign of an invisible reality. Can you say it with me as you do it? A sacrament is a visible sign of an invisible reality. It's a visible sign of an invisible reality. Okay, very good. Have a seat. You guys are super talented. You thought for a moment maybe you were in PE, right? Okay. So let's check this out. If a sacrament is a visible sign, invisible reality. Good. Then what's the visible sign in baptism? So raise your hand if you think you know the answer. What is it that we can see in baptism? The girl in the red shirt. Exactly. The visible sign is water. You can see that. What's the invisible reality? What's going on in baptism that we can't see? Exactly. The Holy Spirit is coming to dwell within, and also original sin is being washed away. So two things are happening in baptism. The Holy Spirit comes to dwell within, and original sin is being washed away. This is why we use water instead of motor oil. Okay, I like cars. Why don't we use motor oil for baptism? Because it's really not a very good sign, is it? If you were to baptize someone in motor oil, would that symbolize cleansing them? No, what would happen if I use motor oil to baptize a baby? What would happen? Yeah, it would get dirty. So this is why we use water, because water symbolizes washing, and we live in a desert. What happens if we don't have water in the desert? Yeah, we die. So water also symbolizes new life. The Holy Spirit coming to dwell within us to give us new life. All right, let's do the Eucharist. Who can tell me what's the visible sign in the Eucharist? Right here on the end. What's the visible sign? Right here. No, that's not the visible sign. What is it that we can see? Exactly, you jumped ahead. So what we can see in the Eucharist is the bread and wine. Okay, what's the invisible reality? Exactly. So the invisible reality is the body and blood of Christ. Can you see Christ's body and blood? No, you can't see it directly, but we believe it's there under the appearance of bread and wine. So this is what it means when we talk about sacraments, that sacraments are a visible sign of an invisible reality. So if the body is sacramental, then that means that the body is a visible sign of an invisible reality. Okay, so who can tell me, what do you think is the visible sign of the body? You know, like we had water in baptism, we had bread and wine. What do you think it might be?
It's just the body itself.
You are right. That's excellent. The visible sign of the body is the body. Sounds like a trick question, but you saw right through my trick question. And so here's the important question. What's the invisible reality? Over here on the end. That's it. So the invisible reality is God. Remember covering up those mountains? We could see the mountains in the reflection. So our bodies are indeed sacramental. They're a
Visible sign, invisible reality.
and the visible sign is the body, and the invisible reality is God. So let's go back to that quote from the Gospel of John. Whoever has seen me has seen the Father. Jesus is saying his body is sacramental. Okay, so the visible sign of Jesus is Jesus and his body. And the invisible reality, who is Jesus revealing? Who is he reflecting? Exactly, and specifically says God the Father, because we can't see God the Father directly, but we can see him through Jesus' body. Okay, I want you to pretend for a moment that you go home today and an alien lands in your backyard, okay? And there you are, oh my gosh, there's an alien. And this alien steps out of his spaceship and he says, I am from another galaxy. Over in my galaxy, we've heard a rumor that there is a God. Is that true? What would you say to the alien? Yes, of course it's true. So this alien then says to you, what's this God like? And you say to the alien, oh, you know what? That's easy. Just follow me around for a day and you'll see what God is like. So if that alien followed you around for a day, what would he learn that God is like? Would he learn that God tries to get first place in line? Or that God cheats on his math test? Or that God does sloppy schoolwork? Or that God tries to hurt people by calling them names or posting mean things on the internet? Or that God spends 4 hours a day in front of the TV or on computer games? Is that what the alien would learn God is like? Yeah, you're all shaking your heads. Of course not. What I would hope is that this alien would learn that he would see through you that God gives a big hug and a kiss to his or her mother or father first thing in the morning. That God doesn't grumble or complain about taking out the trash, but does it willingly. That God dresses in a way that honors the body as a temple of the Holy Spirit. That God plays soccer or hockey without cussing or without swearing, without hogging the ball or without hogging the hockey puck. That's what I'm hoping they would see if they followed you around for the day. Because who remembers what's the purpose of the pancake turner? Who can tell me? What is it? Exactly. And what's the purpose of the body? What is it? Exactly, to show God, to reveal God, to reflect God. And that's the way that alien would learn who God is, by following you around for the day and seeing how you reflected God in your body. So I have a son, and his name is Michael. And when people see him who know his father, but they're maybe meeting him for the first time, they always say, oh my gosh, you look so much like your dad. As a matter of fact, one time we were at an ice skating rink. And we were waiting for a friend to join us. And now this friend knew Michael's father when he was a teenager. And Michael at that time was a teenager. He was in high school. And this friend saw Michael getting out of the car at the parking lot. And he hadn't seen Michael for a couple of years. And he said he kept looking at Michael trying to figure out, is that Michael or is it who? His dad. Is that Michael or is that his dad? He couldn't tell because Michael looked so much like his dad. Here's what his dad looks like. How much they look alike. Amazing, isn't it? No wonder people say you look so much like your dad. Well, you know what? You are made in the image of your parents, but you're also made in God's image. Because the Bible tells us that. From the very beginning, Genesis 1:27, it says, God created man in his image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. So are just boys made in God's image? No, of course not. Are just girls made in God's image? No. Oh, who's made in God's image? Everyone. Both men and women, both boys and girls are made in God's image and likeness. So that means when you get out of your car, someone should say, gosh, is that Tommy or is that God? I can't really tell. They look so much alike, right? Or when you go shopping, you know, when you're walking through the mall with your shopping bags, they should say, gosh, is that Mary or is that God? I can't really tell. They're so much alike. Or if you're playing volleyball or soccer or softball, or if you like to swim or maybe dance, or you're putting on a play, and they look at you and they should say, gosh, I can't really tell. Is that John or is that God? Is that Kelsey or is that God? Because that's how much we should image God in our lives. Because you are God's mirror image. That's why this talk is called The Mirror. And the mirror reflects the image. That's why we look in a mirror, right? It's so that we can see the image. So I happen to have a mirror with me today. Okay, so when you look in this mirror, who do you see? Let's turn it around this way. Who do you see?
Myself.
Yeah, I sure hope so. How about you? When you look in this mirror, who do you see? And what about you? Exactly. Because the mirror does what? It reflects the image. So when people look at you, this is what they should see. They should see a mirror of God that is reflecting his image. That means it would be pretty important to know who is God. If we're meant to reflect God's image, then we need to know whose image we're reflecting. This is whose image we're reflecting. Doug Siebel, right? That's who God is. Mm-hmm. Who can unscramble those words to tell me what it means? Over in the side there, in the white shirt. Yep, who just turned around. What is it? Not quite. Exactly. It says God is love. That's who God is. God is love. You know, it's so wonderful that we have the Bible, our church, our parents, a Catholic school, religion teachers, to remind us and tell us that God is love. Okay, so I want you to close your eyes for a moment, please. Close your eyes. And I want you to picture in your minds God. Would you close your eyes, please? I want you just to imagine in your mind an image of God. Okay, you can open your eyes. Would someone be willing to tell me what you saw? What did you see? Okay. Okay, you saw a guy dressed in white clothes, had a big beard. What did you see? A what? A pair of hands. Ah, that's beautiful. Someone else. What did you see? Say it again. He has brown hair, okay? What did you see? A very caring, loving person. What about you?
A guy with snow white hair dressed in a white robe with a goatee.
That's great. A guy in a white robe with long white hair, or is that what you said?
Yeah,
With long white hair and a goatee. So a lot of people, when they think of God, they think, it was pretty close, huh? They think of an old man with white hair and a long beard. Is that who God is? If God is love, is he an old man in the sky with a long white beard? Some other people think of God like a policeman, right? He's waiting to zap you if you do something wrong. Now, it's important to do the right things, but not because God is a policeman waiting to zap you. Or here's another image of God people have. I don't even think they realize it. Some people think of God like a vending machine. So if I go to a vending machine, who can tell me, what do I put into the vending machine? What do I put in? Money. And what do I hope to get out? If you put money into a vending machine, what do you hope you're going to get out? A snack, soda, stuff, right? Okay, so if God is a vending machine, then I go to the vending machine of God and I put in prayers. And what do I hope to get out? What do you think? Exactly, I hope to get out the answer to that prayer. And tell me, what do you do to a vending machine that doesn't give you what you want? What do you do to it? I heard someone say, you kick it, right? And you walk away. How many people do you and I know who prayed and prayed and prayed, please God, heal my grandma of cancer. Please, God, don't let this happen. Please, God, make this happen. And you know what? When their prayers weren't answered in the way that they wanted, there's some people, they obviously don't literally kick God, but they walk away from God because they're so disappointed. And in their minds, God was like a vending machine. If only I put in enough prayers, I'll get the answer I want. Is it important to pray? Absolutely, every day. But not because God's a vending machine, but because God is a Father who loves us. And here's the really interesting thing, is God always answers our prayers, but sometimes the answer to our prayer is what? No. Do your parents always say yes to you? I see you said no. The same is true for God. Sometimes the answer to our prayers is no. That's just the way it is. So sometimes when we hear the word love, and when we say God is love, I think in our minds, that word love can refer to those, mushy movies that you see where, the men and women are kissing and you kind of just want to hide your eyes. Or sometimes when we think of love, we think of, I love my dog, or I love pizza, or I love ice cream. Yum, huh? Or sometimes when we hear the word love, we can think of the love between our parents. Those are all ways that we use the word love. But when we talk about that God is love, it's different from all of those. When we say God is love, what we mean is that God pours himself out in total gift to us. That's what it means to say God is love. That he's pouring himself out in total gift to us. So that means love is being, I still have you guys didn't tell me I'm still an alien. Let's get rid of the alien. Let's put on the boat. Love is being a gift. That's what love is. Love is being a gift. So that means if God is love, then God is what? Raise your hand. Who can tell me? What is God? Exactly. If God is love, then God is gift. He's not a vending machine. He's not an old man in the sky with a long white beard. He's not a policeman waiting to zap you. He's not even an old man, a young man, and a bird. Right? Sometimes those are the images we see. No, God is gift. And not only just any kind of gift, he is total gift. And that means that God wants to pour himself out in total gift to you. Do you realize how amazing that is? That the God of the universe, who created everything, who's eternal, who the heavens can't contain, he wants to make a total gift of himself to you. This is why he became a baby. So just 2 days ago, we celebrated the Feast of the Annunciation. Who can tell me, what do we celebrate on March 25th? Over there.
The angel Gabriel coming to Jesus and telling him, I heard that she was going to have a baby.
Exactly. So March 25th is 9 months before Christmas. That makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Because it's the day we celebrate the fact that Jesus became a tiny, tiny, tiny little human person inside of the womb of Mary, where he was going to grow for 9 months. So March 25th, we remember that God loved us so much that he became a man. He became one of us. And he made a total gift of himself to us on the cross. What do you think? Do you think this is a total gift? Did Jesus hold something back? Did he say, okay, I'll give them everything but my right foot? No. He gave us everything by dying on the cross. And he continues to give us everything in the Eucharist. That's why you told me earlier that the Eucharist is the body and blood of Christ, didn't you? We have a really nice little phrase to describe what the Eucharist is. It's the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ. Can you say that with me? The Eucharist is the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ. That means it's a total gift of himself to us. Who remembers? Raise your hand. What's the purpose of the body? Yes, back there. Exactly. The purpose of the body is to reflect God, and we reflect God in a very, very special way. What is it? What is it? Exactly. We reflect God by being a gift. This is the way we're the mirror image of God. This is why Jesus had to have a body. Why didn't God just stay up in heaven and never become man? Because he wanted to make a total gift of himself to us. And so this is why Jesus, God, the second person of the Blessed Trinity, took on a body so he could make a total gift of himself to us on the cross and in the Eucharist. How many of you have ever said about Mass, oh, it's so boring? Okay, you don't have to raise your hand. But you know what? I think sometimes we think Mass is boring because we go to Mass, kind of like when we go to the movies or we go to a baseball game. We expect to be entertained. The Mass is not entertainment. The Mass is where God gives a total gift of himself to us. My hope is that for you, the Mass will never be boring again. Because every time you see the priest hold up that host and he says, this is my body given up for you, you'll remember that's what kind of gift of self? A total gift of self. Jesus Christ giving to us his body, what else? Blood, soul, and divinity. How could that ever be boring? It might not be entertaining, but it's not boring because he's giving his very self to us. So if you are God's image and likeness, then that means you're created to be a gift. Does that make sense to you? If God is love, and love is being a gift, and you're created in God's image and likeness, then that means every one of you is created to be a gift. I want to tell a short story about a man who made a gift of self. His name was James Berger. And James Berger lived in New York City. Have any of you ever visited New York City? Who's been there? Great, I've been there also. And September 11th, 2001, dawned the same for James Berger, just like it did for the rest of us. We call that day 9/11. So 9/11, James Berger woke up just the same as all of us woke up. Only James worked in 2 World Trade Center. And I heard his wife speak at a graduation ceremony. Her name is Suzanne. And she told us how that day, on September 11th, in 2 World Trade Center, there was an announcement made after the first tower was hit. And the announcement told everyone to just stay where they were seated, to stay where they were and keep working. Now that seems pretty incredible to us. Can you imagine? For everyone to be told to just stay where they were and keep working? But you have to remember, when the first tower was hit, we didn't know what happened. We didn't know that it was a terrorist attack. All that we knew was that the building had blown up. And so the people in Tower 2 didn't want a stampede. They didn't want people to get hurt. Well, James heard that announcement, but something within him told him disaster was on the horizon. So he got out from behind his desk. And he went around his office and he literally pulled people out from behind their desks and he shoved them into the elevator. He made them go down the stairs. But James himself did not get out alive that day. Suzanne said something very beautiful at the graduation ceremony that I've never forgotten. She said 9/11 showed the rest of the world what she and her 3 sons already knew. That James was a hero. That he was unselfish. That he put others first. And because he put others first, because he was unselfish, because James knew how to make a gift of self, 156 of his fellow employees survived that day. Amazing, isn't it? What one person's gift of self can do. Just one person can change the world. Do any of you remember seeing Pope John Paul II on TV, or have you watched a movie about him? He was one person. Do you think he changed the world? He did. Someday, perhaps you've already studied it, you'll study about communism. John Paul II was one of the main reasons why communism fell apart in our world. One person. You can make such a difference by making your gift of self, by being that mirror image of God. So that's why each of us is called to be a hero. Do you know when we declare someone a saint, what we're declaring is that they lived heroic virtue. They lived heroic love. All of you, and myself included, and your teachers as well, and everybody watching this DVD, we are all called to heroic virtue. We are all called to make a heroic gift of self. Is that easy? Oh, it's really hard, isn't it? That's why we have to pray. That's why we need to go to confession when we don't live up to heroic virtue. That's why it's so important that we go to the Eucharist, not just on Sunday, but any other day that we can get there. That's why Lent is so great. Because in Lent, what do? Do we just eat hog wild and do whatever we want? What do we do in Lent? Tell me.
We pray, fast, and give alms.
Exactly. We pray, we fast, we give alms. Why do you do that? Do you have any friends who think you're weird because you do that? Why do we do that?
So we sacrifice for Jesus because he sacrificed for us.
Yes, we sacrifice for Jesus because he sacrificed for us so that we can be imitators of Christ. Because Christ lived heroic love. He lived heroic virtue. So Lent, do you know Lent is actually one of my most favorite times of the year? It really is. Because Lent helps me learn how to live heroic virtue. It helps me learn how to sacrifice. So maybe one day, I don't know, God will call me to actually give my life for him. And hopefully I'll be ready. Because I've been sacrificing and practicing making my gift of self. So every one of you is called to be a hero. Every one of you is called to make your gift of self. Every one of you is called to be a mirror image of God. You know, the prophet Jeremiah tried to get out of it. He tried to wiggle out of God's call for his life. He told God, I'm too young. I can't do what you're asking me. And God said to the prophet Jeremiah, say not you are too young. You might be tempted to say, I'm too young to make that big of a sacrifice. No, you're not too young. Paul says to Timothy, let no one look down on you because of your youth, but be an example 50% of the time. Is that what he said?
No.
Who can read that last word? Be an example in, let me hear it.
Everything.
One more time, be an example in?
Everything.
Everything, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed. Be a mirror of God. Make a gift of self. So the Catholic Church has given us a fabulous way of making the gift of self. And that's what I want to end this talk with. I want to look at two very specific ways that the church encourages us. The word is actually exhorts us to make a gift of self. And they're called the corporal and spiritual works of mercy. Who's heard of them? Who's never heard of them? All right, great. And maybe those of you watching the DVD, you've never heard of them. Or maybe you know them all. So whether we know them all or whether we've never heard of them, let's review them again. So let's first look at the corporal works of mercy. Can anyone guess how many there are? Back there. No, they're fewer than 10. 7. There are 7 corporal works of mercy, and they come to us from Matthew 25. That's where we find the 7 corporal works of mercy listed. Now, corporal means to do with the body. Do you remember every year we celebrate the feast of Corpus Christi? That's the feast of the body and blood of Christ. So corpus means the body. So the corporal works of mercy have to do with something that's tangible, a way in which we help the body. Okay, so here, what we're going to do is unscramble them. So if you can unscramble this corporal work of mercy, raise your hand. What is it? Very good. The first one is feed the hungry. Let's look at the next one. Who can unscramble the next one? Anyone from back here? We're a little quiet back in this section. Can any of you unscramble that? What is it? Is she right? Give drink to the thirsty. Very good. Let's look at the next one. What is this one? Yes. Yes, clothe the naked. That would be pretty valuable. I always like to encourage us, especially during Lent. Do you think you might have a few clothes in your closet that you don't wear anymore? Yeah. It's a great way. Okay, perhaps we're never going to go out and actually clothe the naked, but we can go through our closet and we can take out all those extra clothes. I hate to admit, I have a few extra clothes. Matter of fact, I might have more than a few extra clothes. And I certainly have more than a few extra shoes. So I could go through, and I want to go through and clean those up and take them to St. Vincent de Paul or some charity, so that's a way we can clothe the naked. All right, let's look at the next one. I know it's down a little bit. Let's do this side over here. Anyone on this side? Can you see it? Okay, what?
Shelter the
Yes, shelter the homeless. So maybe there's someone who, like me, when I moved to Phoenix from Steubenville, Ohio, I needed a place to stay. And so I wasn't homeless, but I certainly needed a home. So there was a family who opened up their home to me, and I stayed with them for about 10 months. They were making a gift of self through the corporal work of mercy. They were sheltering the homeless. All right, let's look at the next one. It's a short one. Okay. Can you figure it out? Yes. Yes, visit the sick. So I have a friend, and her daughter has been sick for almost 2 years. Her daughter is almost 19. So since 17, she has been almost in the house or homebound for 2 years. I try to get to visit them whenever I can. Sometimes I travel a lot, so I text her. It's not quite visiting the sick, but I try to keep in touch with her. Because could you imagine, I want you just to imagine for a moment, for 2 years, you couldn't go to school? Do you like to play any sports? What do you play? Soccer. Imagine for 2 years you couldn't play soccer. Does anyone here play an instrument? What do you play? Saxophone. Imagine for 2 years you couldn't play the saxophone. Wouldn't it be really nice if someone came and visited you and maybe played saxophone for you? Or maybe you could watch some soccer together, or they could bring you up to date on your soccer team. It's such an important way we make a gift of self. All right, and the next one? What is it? Visit the imprisoned. Now that can be a little bit difficult when you're younger because I don't think they allow you into prisons. However, there are a lot of prison ministries. You could pray for those people in prison ministries, or a lot of them have letters. You could actually, what was one of the things we do during Lent? Almsgiving. What if you started giving a regular alm to a prison? Or to a prison ministry, which we have a prison ministry in the Diocese of Phoenix. That'd be a great way to live this corporal work of mercy. And the last one. Ooh, what? Bury the dead. Very, very important. Now for us, that doesn't seem really important, but you have to realize in the early church, or even we read some of the stories for the Jews in the Old Testament, in the early church, if you buried a Christian, you could get arrested. And so this is a really important corporal work of mercy, that we don't just leave the bodies out for the vultures. Like, did we just leave Jesus' body on the cross? No. Who remembers who came and requested his body? Begins with an N. Do you remember his name? Yes. No, Mary didn't request his body. It was a different person. She held his broken body. So you're right. She was there. Do you remember his name? It was Joseph of Arimathea's tomb that he was put in. So it was a very, very important corporal work of mercy, so that his body had a proper burial. So those are the 7 corporal works of mercy. I brought with me this wonderful little book that I picked up one time in Denver that shows us how even at a young age we can already be making a gift of self through the corporal works of mercy. So I know you can't see it well, but let's try this. I'm going to read the first part, and then I'm going to ask you all out loud to read the second part. So here's what it says. I left my lunch at home, and now I'm hungry. How can you make a gift of self? Will you read this? What a wonderful way to make a gift of self. The next one, I have all this homework to do. I don't get it, and I'm never going to figure it out. Would you read the next part for me, please? Is that a gift of self? Yeah. Is that person being a mirror of God? Sure. I was new to this school and hadn't made any friends yet. Here's what you could do. Have any of you had that experience of being the new kid in school? Was it kind of difficult? For some people, it can be. So I really want to encourage you, the next time there's a new kid that comes into your school, make a gift of self. Be God's mirror image to them. Go out and make a friend. Invite them to play with you. Ask them to sit with you at lunch. Because isn't that what you'd want someone to do for you? I know I would. All right, let's see the next one. I didn't know it was supposed to snow today. I was so cold. I thought I was going to freeze. Will you read what you could do, please? I thought that was a very, very clever way, huh? of helping in a way to clothe the naked. We hadn't seen you for a couple of days. Our teacher said you got sick and had to stay at the hospital for a while. So we brought you some balloons. Whatever you did for one of the least of these, you did for me. That's what Matthew 25 says. So when we make a gift of self through one of the corporal works of mercy, we're being Jesus Christ to those people. So let's look at the spiritual works of mercy. There are also 7 of those, and we're going to look at those in a little bit different way. I want you to see if you can complete the sentence. So the first one is instruct the, and it begins with an I. And those of you watching the DVD, see if you can get it before someone here does. Instruct the starts with an I. When you don't know something, anyone on the DVD get it yet? Do you think you might know it? It's ignorant. Instruct the ignorant. And ignorant doesn't mean someone's stupid, like, not cool. It means they just don't know. So your teachers every day are making a gift of self through this spiritual work of mercy because they're instructing the ignorant. They're instructing you of things that you don't know. That's why teaching is such a great profession. All right, the next one, counsel the, what do you think that one is? Counsel the doubtful. So that means someone who's not sure what to do. Sometimes having the wisdom of other people can really help. So your parents try to offer this spiritual work of mercy to you when you're really not sure what to do, or when you get to be a senior in high school and you have to figure out where you're going to go for college. That's often helping to counsel the doubtful. All right, let's do the next one. Admonish the, and it begins with an S. What do you think it might be? The sick? No, not admonish the sick. What do you think it might be? The what? The sinner. Admonish the sinner. That means someone who's done something, who is doing something or has done something wrong. You don't go up to them and say, oh, you're such a jerk. You're going to go to hell. Okay, that's not admonishing the sinner. What it means is you say to them, you know what? Do you realize that that's a sin to cheat on your math test? Do you realize that you're not being a mirror of God when you shoplift those sunglasses? That's admonishing the sinner. It's with charity, with love, helping someone to realize, what they're doing is offending God and offending other people. Maybe you might have a friend, Facebook or the internet stuff. People post a lot of things that are really mean. It's a great opportunity to admonish the sinner and say, you really should take down what you said about Ann, because it really is disrespectful for her, to her. All right, the next one, bear wrongs. Okay, what am I now? Gosh darn. What am I? Can you tell? What am I being? Gosh, when is that bus going to come? I'm being impatient. And what's the opposite? Patient. Exactly. So bears wrong patiently. Bear wrongs patiently. That can be really difficult. Right? If someone's really annoying you, you might have a little brother or sister, and they do things that just bug the heck out of you. Well, you know what? A spiritual work of mercy is to endure those. We say it's bearing those wrongs patiently when someone offends you or says, let's say you have a friend who says mean things about you. Instead of just saying mean things back, you bear those wrongs patiently. And actually in our faith, we could always join our sufferings to the sufferings of Christ on the cross. That's a very powerful way of bearing wrongs patiently. The next one, forgive offenses. Ooh, that would be a really good one, but it doesn't happen to be that word for this. But I like that. What do you think it might be? What is it? Willingly. Right. Do you remember when Peter comes to Jesus and says, how many times should I forgive my brother? 70 times 7? And Jesus says, yeah, forgive him exactly 490 times. Now, what does Jesus say? Do you remember? Do you remember what Jesus says? Yeah, what does he say? He says, that's right, you should forgive them endlessly. There's no limit to our forgiveness. So you're young, but you know what? By the time you get to be 40, 50, 60, do you think you're going to have forgiven a lot of times? Yeah, that's actually making a gift of self. How many times does God forgive you? A zillion, right? There's no number. So we can be a mirror of God when we forgive others. All right, we've got two more. Comfort the... Oh, you're very, very close. We have the joyful mysteries, and then we have, what is it? Exactly. So comfort the sorrowful. It's really hard when someone close to you dies. It's really hard when something disappointing happens. It's really hard. I can remember in 6th grade, my best friend moved away. Yes, exactly. Oh, I was really sorrowing. And it would have been really nice for someone to make a gift of self to me and say, Katrina, I can see you're really sad. You're really experiencing a lot of sorrow over that. Let's go do this. So that's a great way. Comfort the sorrowful. And the very last one, pray for the... Did you say, what was the first one? Pray for the... Lonely. It's not lonely. What's the opposite of dead? So pray for the living and the dead. How many of you, during the school day, do you have intercessory prayer? Do you pray for people? Do you do that during your school day? So whenever you're praying here in school, you're making a gift of self through that spiritual work of mercy, praying for the living and the dead. So I'm going to ask you to remember praying for me, because that'll be a great way. You can always make one gift of self a day to pray for me, Katrina. It's easy to remember my name. It's like the hurricane. So just say, okay, God, please bless Katrina. Give her all the wisdom that she needs, all the counsel that she needs, the energy to fulfill your will for her life, especially as she speaks on Pope John Paul II's writings on theology of the body. And that's what we've done today. Because theology of the body means that your body reveals God. And that's what the whole talk has been about, is that your body is meant to be a mirror image of God. And the way we are this mirror image of God is by being a gift. And so we've just heard 14 ways that we can make a gift of self. And the most important thing I want you to remember is that the body is sacramental because, will you stand please? And do those motions with me one more time. Right? So the body is sacramental because the body is a visible sign of an invisible reality. Okay, so when you go home today, you can stay standing. When you go home today and your parents, mom, dad says, how was school? You're going to say, it was great. And we had a guest speaker today whose name was? Katrina. And Katrina taught us that the body is sacramental. Mom, dad, do you know what it means that the body is sacramental? I never thought about it. And you'll say, oh, it's easy. The body is a visible sign. Oh, whoops, I did it wrong. Let's try again. The body is a visible sign of an invisible reality. Okay, give yourselves a round of applause. You were fabulous. So I want to thank you for making a gift of self to me today, because you were fabulously respectful. I really, really appreciate that, and you participated just so well, and I think you learned a thing or two. So thank you so much.